Good afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone's been enjoying this great mystery event so far with all these great, fantastic games. I will be playing Spider-Man 2, the Sinister 6 for the Game Boy Color. The basic premise of the story is certain villains want to capture Spider-Man. They know that Peter Parker takes pictures, so they figured if they can find Peter Parker, they'll be able to lure Spider-Man into their trap. Unfortunately, Aunt May is the one that's kidnapped instead, so it's up to Spider-Man to save her. This will be played on easy since the only difference in difficulty so far that I can see is just how many hits the enemies take. With that, I'm ready to start, Junkyard Dave. 3, 2, 1, and go. There are cutscenes in between the various stages, but there's really not much to speak afterwards for those cutscenes. Usually there are small objectives that you have to do in each specific section before you can reach the boss, and there are two stages. There are two parts per stage. Basically, anytime you get near an enemy, they're going to use a weapon or their fist or flying feet at you. Fortunately, we don't have to. Spider-Man doesn't have to deal with the most normal enemies at all, unless you just need to clear a path for later on. So for most of the game, Spider-Man is going to be utilizing his web to skip over enemies, and he'll be doing a lot of crawling. Fortunately, you don't need to actually do anything to most enemies except to get a key in the next section, because health is everywhere. But the health only restores 10 for a small and 30% for a large. When you're crawling on any kind of surface, pressing A will put you in a different position if there's a wall near you. The small spider webs, I honestly forgot what those are supposed to be for. Because you don't actually have to worry about running out of spider web in this game at all. And sorry, Junkyard Dave, I was told by Spider-Man that while the invisible spider web was actually useful, he lost the formula. Fortunately for Spider-Man, the bosses are very lackluster, and the music for each boss fight is just a faster pitch version of the stage itself. So this is all Mysterio does is form duplicates, and when those duplicates form, it does nothing but send a small shockwave. Once you get rid of the initial three, Mysterio goes away, taunts Spider-Man, and he has to head to the next area to go for the next Sinister 6 member. This section, just like the last one, is in a very open space, so there'll be a lot of web swinging. The only difference between the second section of this area and the last area is you actually need a key, whereas in the last stage you had to trigger doors. And the enemy who has the key is all the way at the end. as far as attacking enemies, you still have to deal with a health meter, but it won't really be an issue unless there's a lot of enemies around or you're in a higher difficulty. And if you're on a higher difficulty, I would definitely recommend getting rid of some enemies while being able to preserve as much health as possible. Here's the enemy that we need to get rid of, which drops a key. And next we have to fight the Sandman. As you can see, anytime you hit Sandman, he retaliates by making sure that you have a huge headache on your hands later on with his hammer. The best way to deal with Sandman, unfortunately, is to have enough run speed so that you'll have a jump kick right afterwards. If you don't have enough room to run, then you'll just see a regular combo of attacks afterwards. There is a cheese strat you can use in the corner, which essentially just requires you to stay in one position while attacking Sandman, but you're going to get hit by the hammer each and every time, so you still have to have enough health just to survive. So it's just easier to stick and move. And now with now with Sandman gone, now Spider-Man is on to his next stage and objective. These next two stages are easily the longest in the entire game. And also for the rest of the game, there'll be various lasers that, along with the enemies, make Spider-Man's life a bit more difficult than it really should be. But fortunately, there's still plenty of health about, and we'll also see our first appearance of an invincibility that lasts for a small duration of time and changes his outfit. Spider-Man also can web up normal enemies and tie them up for a while, but eventually they'll just break loose anyway. So whenever possible, if you can avoid confrontation, it's just easier to just skip over any enemies you can while collecting health. And now these weird items on the wall, it's because the controls are partially awkward. Most likely you're going to have a hard time avoiding them. So as long as you have more than enough health, it's easier to just take the hits. There's the latch to the door we need for the second part of the stage. Now, if you actually lose a life, you'll go back to the checkpoint of the stage of the area that you started on. So since I don't want to start over for this checkpoint wise, I'll just take the rest of the hits there, so I'll have plenty of health. Even though there are places that have quite a bit of health, there are some areas that don't have enough, and since in those places there aren't enough health around, you don't want to find yourself very low when needed. We still have to find one more switch for a door. Fortunately, with any of the enemies, all of the regular enemies in the game have their predetermined positions on where they'll walk to, so they'll only cover a small portion of the area. But the enemies with the weapons, with the pistols, definitely are the worst. Switch to this wall. Now, despite the fact that they give you three items to choose from, you only need to use the first one, which unlocks this door. Once we reach the top, then we deal with the vulture. It's unfortunate that all of the fights are very easy and lackluster. Once Vulture swoops down, you get to land a full combo of hits. Just go to the side that he's going to appear from to avoid the bombs. He always does 3 passovers, but you have to be quick enough in enough time to be able to land some hits on him, or else he'll fly again, wasting a couple of seconds cycle-wise. And he'll always appear on the right side for you to land hits. So unlike Sandman and the first boss, you don't have to worry about any retaliation. But that only happens since you actually can't hurt the Vulture at all while he's in the air. And once you do enough hits to the Vulture, he runs off and leaves a piece of paper letting Spider-Man know where to go next. And here's another partial long stage in which you have to unlock doors. It's a bit of a small maze, just like the third stage. But in this case, we have to descend to a much lower portion of the area. This is supposed to be Madison Square Garden for some reason. Maybe not the most ideal place for an enemy to be. Yep. Oh wait, no. For a second, this is the one area I almost always get lost in. Knowing that I made a wrong turn. You get that 30% health. Let's see. Okay, this is the right area, I think. Okay, this looks right. Yep. Once you see that switch, you drop down to another section, which brings up the second area. Definitely going to want to be a bit more careful here since my health isn't the greatest. Wait, this is the area where I'm supposed to go all the way left. This is what I was thinking about in the last section. Now those grenade throwing enemies, you can crouch underneath like this and do some attacks as well. But it's not as effective as when you're standing to do his combo. And it's only useful against two regular enemies in the game, as well as one main enemy, which we'll see in the next stage. And now we reach our next boss. Right now. Now you would think that Scorpion would be up for a game of basketball, but unfortunately for Spider-Man, no such luck. That's the only attack that Scorpion does, is just with his tail. Now I don't know whether he's just shrugging off attacks after a few hits, or if he's supposed to be doing some sort of a dance. You tell me. Scorpion goes down just as easily as the rest. Now on to the fifth stage. Now this is supposed to be the objective. Find the enemy, which is clearly the boss. So there's no keys to collect, there's no doors. We're just walking or swinging our way through Central Park on a nice, calm, and stormy night, even for a spider. The second part of this area allows for a bit more air web swinging. But since the trees and the gazebos are in the way mostly, as well as some statues, there won't be that much ample room for you to do so. Just move right as usual. Avoid what enemies you can. Take any health given to you. This area is more of the same. There's a slight bit more space here for air travel. Well, you know what? Might as well obtain the health while we're here. There'll be more health along the way. Now, I don't know about the rest of you, but since when does a zoo exist in Central Park? at least for any kind of attraction. And now we see who that enemy is, which is Kraven the Hunter. Another pointless fight. Now this is where, if you crouch quick enough, you can avoid the knives that's thrown. But if you time it right, you'll be able to just hit him without resorting to this technique. That's unfortunate, but since now I have the health, of course I don't want to take too many of those hits at all. Especially since I'm on my last life. Okay, Kraven the Hunter is down. He's actually the one that kidnapped Aunt May. So now we're on to our final stage and our last Sinister 6 member. You have a few guesses to figure out who that is. At least for anyone that might know their enemies with Spider-Man. So in this area, 2 keys have to be found. Fortunately, both of them, at least this one is actually near the end of the stage, while the other one you have to go quite out of your way. It's a good idea here to actually use the crouch attacks to get rid of some of the scientists with the potions. Because between them and some of the other enemies, there are a lot. Health is not really needed so much in this particular area, but the next area will definitely be needed. We can skip these normal enemies. Use the key, and we go to the second section. Now this area, I definitely want to keep as much health as possible because of all the enemies that are in the way. Because we'll have to detour, we have to make quite a bit of a detour just to get the key. So these are the enemies along the way you'll definitely want to get rid of. Because since you'll have to make a return trip just to take the key to the end that's in a completely different path. You don't want to deal with the enemies later on. unfortunately, if you're actually running at a particular enemy with a jump kick, timed well enough, your jump kick will hit the enemy before the enemy can actually hit you. So now that we got the key from the alternate path, now we go back. Oops. Now we go back to the main area. Now I really want to make sure I have health from here on out. Even though I'm going to take some hits anyway. Oh. I don't know why I thought those were the scientists. Thank goodness for the amount of health that's spread, that's pretty much everywhere. And we're coming up on the boss now, so hopefully, yeah, this should be good health-wise, as long as I don't mess up any attacks. Use the crawl method here to deal with the scientists with the potions. And here's our last boss, Doc Ock himself. Basically wait for him to stop moving, jump kick. That's it. Otherwise you'll get hit by the tentacles, and we'll be coming up on time on the fade out. And that's time. And that's Spider-Man 2 Return to Sinister 6 for the Game Boy Color. It's not a bad game. It has some questionable controls in terms of hanging off the ceiling. I do want to take the time down slightly further on this mode, well, at least my time anyway, because the top 2 times might be a lot more troublesome to reach, but there are several more difficulty levels. Normal, hard, and supposedly a nightmare level. And I believe at the very least, 1 or 2 of those can easily, the times that already exist for it can easily be beaten. So with that, thank you Junkyard Dave for this great marathon. Thank you everybody for watching this game, and I'm looking forward to seeing the rest of the games. Everybody take care, and thanks for watching.